When money is the goal, that's the problem. You start messing everything up. You're bastardizing the system. Don't do that. But when your goal is just to help somebody, when your goal is just to serve somebody and be like, man, I love finding people in the dark because I remember what it was like in the dark, and I remember how painful it was, and I remember how lonely it was, and I don't want anybody to feel like that any longer than they have to. One of the easiest ways to shift your vision and find one of the things that will serve the world around you well, and as a natural byproduct, build wealth. Man, pain's one of the biggest motivators for why people do stuff. And if you are in misery right now, and if you are tolerating your lifestyle and your job, like, you need to get out. And sometimes we need more pain in order to make the decision that we need to make. So if you're trying to figure out, what do I go to? Because clarity is a huge part of that question. And the answer, if I don't do this and this thing that I've been doing for years, what am I actually going to do? And in order to get clarity, you need to get clear on your vision. In order to get clear on your vision, you have to remove any obstructions. And those obstructions, that big thing in front of you, the thing that's the only thing that you can see because you've been trained in this perspective. You see these movies where something happens, something shifts, and it's just a perspective shift, and then everything gets clear, and the protagonist knows exactly what to do because now the vision has shifted. And so let me say, one of the easiest ways to shift your vision and find one of the things that will serve the world around you well, and as a natural byproduct, build wealth, is removing the law. That part, simply. What is the problem? So this principle that Christ puts in the Gospels, he says, hey, before you start to help somebody else, before you go to remove the speck out of their eye, remove the log out of your own eye. And yes, this deals with the things that you're not doing right from a moral perspective, but it also deals with a larger principle, which is an economic principle as well, which is, when you solve the massive problems in your life, when you figure out the relationship cycle that you've been in, and these loops that you've been in, because so many of us are in these loops of trauma, or these loops of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If we're not growing, if we're not moving, if we're not going in the direction that we want, we are stuck in a loop. And when you can figure out your loop, and when you can dissect that log, when you can sit with that log and you can study it, you know what it smells like, you know what it looks like, you know the type, the species, and all of that scientific stuff. And you can break down, hey, I had this massive problem, this log in my eye, and I see, sir, ma'am, I see you got this little speck in your eye. And I'm not going to downplay how significant that is, but I can tell you how I got rid of this log in my eye. And when you can do that, when you sit in the pain, and when you sit in the sorrow and the misery, and you study it, and you get comfortable in the dark, kind of like Bane and Batman were comfortable in the dark. They both had different approaches, different perspectives, but they got comfortable and they could start to see. You know, when you get in the dark and at first you can't see anything and you're tripping over stuff, but then your vision starts to adjust. When your vision begins to adjust in the dark, and people come to you with their problems and they're starting to lose their mind, but your vision is already adjusted, now you understand, like, hey, watch out for that chair right there. I know you can't see it, but watch this way. And you teach people how to adjust their vision to the dark. And when you can teach people that, and when you can bring light into dark places, man, people will pay you because they are trying to escape pain. And you can be an ambassador, a balm, somebody that shows up with light and love and hope, because when you're really in the dark, man, hope is scarce. And I thought it was around here somewhere, but I can't find it right now. When you bring hope, when you bring light, when you bring love, when you bring belief and faith, and you help people that have been stuck in that place for years and years and years, and don't actually think that there's a way out anymore, and say, look, if I could do it, as messed up as I was, I know you can do it. That's one of the ways that we borrow faith. That's one of the ways that we build belief, is by finding anybody, somebody, some human somewhere. Because if one human somewhere did it, 2 humans can do it, and 3 humans, and 4 humans. When Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile record, Nobody thought you could run a mile in less than 4 minutes. They thought your heart was going to explode. Science was like, don't do this, you're going to die. And he was like, no, I believe it can be done. Once he did it, like a bunch of people started doing it afterwards. It went from being a barrier for everyone to a barrier that anybody who dedicated themselves because of the belief system, once the belief barrier was out of the way, their belief system was renewed and changed, their perspective was shifted, and then they could do it. And so for you, what is it? What is the big thing? What is the pain? Because the thing is, you can find the vocation. You can find something else to do. If you don't sort that thing out, if you don't sort out your problem, if you don't sort out your pain, if you don't sort out the thing that's giving you the most angst and causing you to be angry and agitated and triggered and traumatized over and over and over again, if you don't sit with that thing, even if you get to something better from a vocational perspective, from a relational perspective, you're going to take that same stuff in with you and you're not going to be able to enjoy it. But when you sit with the pain and when you study that log and you're able to whittle it down and turn it into something beautiful, be like, look at this thing I made. You want to learn how to make this thing? I can show you how to make this thing, but it's going to be your own thing. When you can show people that, they will give you your money, and the impact, the money is like a byproduct, man. When money is the goal, that's the problem. You start messing everything up. You're bastardizing the system. Don't do that. But when your goal is just to help somebody, when your goal is just to serve somebody and be like, man, I love finding people in the dark because I remember what it was like in the dark, and I remember how painful it was, and I remember how lonely it was, and I don't want anybody to feel like that any longer than they have to. So let me grab your hand because I got a flashlight. I got a whole set of lights. I got a system in place to walk you out of where you are because I've studied this stuff. I am a scientist of the dark, but also a scientist of the light, and I have figured out how to move from one place to the next. Let me help you, friend. Let me show you the way. Let me serve you. And when you do that, the impact, that is going to be the thing that you'll figure out, like, man, it's better to give than to receive because you're giving so much and you see the transformation in people, and that is wealth. That is true wealth. And the money is going to come after. Sit with it. Be a scientist. Pray. Meditate. God, help me sort this thing out. Help me connect. Be my authentic self. Enjoy what I'm doing. Use my skill sets to bless others. And everything else is going to sort itself out.